What is up, you guys? Welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about Stoicism. We're going to be talking about how you're not meant to struggle, how you can take on life through this lens of Stoicism to make your life easier, to make all situations that you encounter more easy to navigate, more easy for you to feel fulfilled, for you to feel happy, and really take back the reins and control and power in your life. So it's really about mastering yourself. It's not a trend or some gimmick or some flex to post on social media, really, as much as it is mastering yourself, mastering your emotions, and the way that you're showing up in your life. The most foundational piece when it comes to Stoicism is realizing that there is nothing in the external, ephemeral world that we can control. The only thing that we control is ourselves. And what we do impacts the external world. It impacts our lives and it writes our story. And this is one of the reasons why I love Stoicism, is because this concept, this is being proved by quantum physics, which I've talked about on the channel. It goes really in alignment with a lot of teachings on manifestation that, by changing ourselves, by changing our perception of ourselves, our self-concept, that is how we have the power to rewrite our lives, to take back take authorship of our story, to really be the author of the story of our lives and the narrative that we are entertaining. So one of the main things that you're going to want to do as you embrace this kind of practice is taking a look at some of the emotional triggers that you have. We all have different ones. A lot of them stem from childhood issues. But the more that you can kind of cultivate this indifference and this neutrality when it comes to, it could be conflict in relationships, it could be something in your job or your business isn't doing very well, or it could be your struggle in some sort of area, it could even be a health struggle. Any sort of thing that is causing this emotional turmoil within us, the ability to cultivate indifference, to be mindful. And a lot of people talk about mindfulness, and I've always kind of felt like it's kind of this airy fairy term, because the way that people just bring it up in conversation, it's never seemed like it's very grounded. But they've actually done research, and there was a study at the University of California in Long Beach. Mindfulness, really what mindfulness is the ability to focus on the present without worrying too much about the past or the future. And mindful people, when they've done studies, are rated as being more attractive. People that perceive their emotions without having to react to them. People who are aware of their emotions but don't allow their emotions to overwhelm them are rated as more mindful, more attractive. And you can see that probably one of the reasons that this is rated as more attractive is because it shows that you have self-control. It shows that you have an ability to not be led by your emotions, not allow your emotions to rule you. Because when we do that, we become a slave to our emotions. And there's a very interesting story in The Courage to Be Disliked, which I brought up on this channel before in different videos. And there's a conversation between the youth and the wise man, where the youth is telling him that he was out at a restaurant and a waiter spilled something on him. I think he spilled something on his coat, and he kind of flips out and starts yelling at this waiter. And he says he couldn't control himself, right? He was justified, and he's justifying his anger. And the philosopher said, the wise man says, if you had a knife and got carried away and stabbed him, would that also be an unavoidable occurrence that you couldn't do anything about? And the youth is like, no, that's an extreme argument. But the philosopher says, no, not really, because if you follow that line of thinking, if you follow that reasoning, any offense committed in anger can be blamed on anger and will no longer be the responsibility of the person, because essentially you're saying people cannot control their emotions. He says that that this youth fabricated this emotion of anger to allow him to shout at the waiter, and that he could have handled it without raising his voice. The waiter probably would have apologized and maybe even offered to have his coat dry cleaned for him. But he felt like speaking in a reasonable manner was too much trouble, and he wanted to get this unresisting person to submit to him. So he used the tool of anger, the tool of the emotion of anger. And he says the fact that you can be yelling at somebody and then pick up the phone and talk super politely, super sweetly to that person, then hang up and then go back to yelling at the person shows that it is not an uncontrollable emotion. It's a tool that people use to exert power over another with a loud voice, assert their opinions, and basically subjugate others, which is a very interesting take on emotions and being ruled by emotions. I think that whether we are conscious of it or not, if we're consciously using it as a tool or if it's a subconscious thing going on, it shows a lack of control. And again, that speaks to why that is an unattractive quality. If somebody is just flipping out at people or, having these volatile emotions that they're expressing, and this could even be in constant complaining, it could be in any sort of emotional outburst that is uncontrolled and done in an uncontrollable manner and in a very reactive manner, it shows that that person is, again, being led by their emotions rather than having self-control and a self-assured and person that isn't in control of themselves, right? And that's an attractive quality, to be in control of yourself, to be graceful, to be elegant, to move through life with, again, a calm control about you. There's something elegant about that. There's something that is attractive about that. There's something regal about that. There's another story of the Buddha, when the Buddha was out in the street and there was this pauper that was lambasting him in the middle of the street and was just accusing him, yelling at him, and basically verbally abusing him. And the Buddha just kind of sat there and listened. After he did everything he could to offend the Buddha, he was unmoved, and he simply turned to the man and said, "May I ask you a question?" The man responded with, "What?" He said, "If someone offers you a gift and you decline to accept it, to whom does that gift belong?" And the man said, "Well, then I guess it belongs to the person who offered it." And the Buddha smiled and he said, "That is correct. So if I decline to accept your abuse, does it then not still belong to you?" The man was speechless and walked away. And this is a great story on how to cultivate this type of neutrality, this type of indifference, which is such a valuable trait at the heart of Stoicism, the ability to not be able to be moved off-centered and bothered by the opinions and attitudes of those around us, which, again, if we are allowing that to creep in, offend us, to move us off-center emotionally, we are at the effect of other people and we're giving them control over us, where it's like we're handing them the remote control to our emotions, which we do not want to do. We want to stay centered in what we know to be true. Really, another big part of Stoicism is cultivating virtue and the qualities of kindness, strength, mental fortitude, which we've talked about right now, calm serenity, and the ability to be resilient and be like kindness and humility. All of these things are virtuous, and they're all qualities that are also taught in many other spiritual traditions. And there's a quote from Marcus Aurelius that says, "To be strict with yourself and be tolerant of others," which is another great way of looking at this, because when you are tolerant of others, you expect that other people are going to be, again, going back to this, you don't have control over the outer environment, you have control over yourself. And so going into situations knowing that people are volatile, that there is chaos, most people are drowning in a sea of their own emotions and drowning in a state of reactivity to their outer environment, right? And as we learn about in manifesting and teachings from various teachers that discuss those principles, again, it comes back to us. We have the power over our own state. We are the ones governing our emotional state. And the state of being, the state of awareness that we are in, is then how we have an ability to influence the outer reality. That is where we cultivate that ability. And by cultivating that ability, by keeping strong within our own state of awareness and not allowing other people to throw us off center, that is how we cultivate the ability to create our reality. Because again, if we're reflecting these negative emotions, if people are doing things and it's causing us to lash out in anger, or it's causing us to get upset, or it's causing us any form of being led again by that external circumstance and into those emotions and that emotional expression, now we've lost power, because now we're giving our power away to the thing that is causing us to react. And so it's a vicious cycle. And that's another reason why the mindfulness is very important, because if you keep reflecting on the past or keep worrying about the future, again, you're kind of in a state of reaction where you're reacting to either a past perceived harm or you're worrying about a perceived future. And really, where you're living when you're engaging in this, it's all a mental fantasy. The past and the future are basically mental. They're mental constructs that you are reacting to in your mind, because when you're present and when you are present in the moment, you're going to want to have a solution-oriented approach. So if something does happen in the moment, maintaining that clear stability, that calm clarity of the situation, and that discernment and that ability to see through muddy water and spot dry land and be able to figure out what course of action needs to be taken, regardless of how you're feeling, regardless of how you emotionally feel, that's what's going to be that grounded, rational truth, being grounded in the truth and seeing the reasoning of the situation and how you can, again, come out on the other side. That is going to be what helps you. The emotional thinking is going to get you to respond more often than not in a way that is going to be counterproductive to the outcome that you want. So this goes again with the idea that there's things in life that we can control and there's things that we can't control. And that's kind of like the serenity prayer. It's like, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that is what is very important about this, is that wisdom to know the difference. Because again, other people, other situations, external circumstances, we don't really have control over that. All we have control over is ourselves, the way that we perceive the situation and the way that we show up into any given situation. So if you have a problem in your life, either you have a solution for it or you don't. And if you don't, really all you're doing is wasting time and energy by focusing on that problem and continuing to dwell on that problem. And that is one way that we overcomplicate things. Unless it's a life lesson, and from then that leads us to another principle, which is that then we want to extract the benefit. So let's say that we run into a problem, we want to look at to what advantage this actually gives us. And if it is a lesson to be learned, then it is important to reflect on the situation, but again, with that calm neutrality, so that you're able to then extract the benefit. Because if you get into that emotional thinking, you're not looking at the situation properly. You're looking through it through distorted glasses. And you want to keep those glasses clean. You want to keep the lenses through which you're looking at reality clean. And that is done by maintaining this stoic attitude about things, by maintaining that neutrality, so that you can really hear, you really see, really understand a situation as it is, and not as you're thinking through a distorted glass that you're looking through. Again, a lot of those situations that we get where we get wrapped up into our mind and we're constantly playing out situations, thinking about what other people are thinking, they're mental projections of our own creation. We are not doing what Marcus Aurelius said when he said to be tolerant of others but be strict with ourselves, right? We want to bring our focus back into ourselves and who it is that we're being, because again, we don't have control over the outer circumstances. And this also goes back to psychology in that comparison trap as well, where we're constantly either looking down on others or looking up towards others and comparing ourselves to other people. And that is a recipe for unhappiness, because we don't, first of all, that's all a mental projection anyways. We don't even really know the ins and outs of somebody else's life. The grass always looks greener, often looks greener, or if we want to feel better about ourselves by putting others down, again, that's a mental projection. We don't really know that person. And even if we perceive like some sort of objective idea that person's quality of life is less than our own, where is that really getting us? It's not focusing on ourselves. It's not creating a life that we want. It is a simple band-aid temporary solution, and it's not cultivating the virtuous qualities that we want to have. It's not focused on our self-improvement. It's focused on putting somebody else down to make ourselves feel better, which is not a stoic quality. And in fact, that's going to, again, long-term bring us less happiness as well, because now we're stuck on the only way I'm feeling good, again, is by comparing myself to somebody else who's doing less than. Or if I get caught in that comparison trap again, I'm feeling less than because I'm comparing myself to somebody who's quote unquote doing better than me. So it's a losing struggle. And that is, again, how we create and overcomplicate things in our lives. Whereas all that we need to focus on is how we're doing, how we can progress past our best, how we can really just be better than we were yesterday and continue to push the ball forward, push the needle forward. Again, that comes down to that mindset where we're doing what we know we need to do, where we're committed to our values. We're not just going to do and settle for the thing that feels good in the moment, because I could be telling myself I want to go to the gym every single day, but then I say, you know what? It just feels better. It feels better to just sit here. It feels better to just have a beer during the middle of the day instead of working on my business. And that, again, is the antithesis of Stoicism, because you're, again, being led by your emotions. And you'll find as well that, like, when you're able to cultivate this stick-to-itiveness and commit and be a person of your word, people are going to respect you more. You're going to get better treatment from other people. People are going to see that you're able to execute. People are going to want to give you more responsibility, which also means that they're giving you more power. You're empowering yourself because you have now cultivated a reputation of a man or a woman that sticks to what they say they're going to do. And that is all something that everybody values, is a reliable person. And if you can't be reliable and trust yourself, how is somebody else going to trust you? And if you can't follow through with what you promised yourself you were going to do, then your promises to other people don't really hold much value and they won't mean much. Now, on this path, you're going to run into a lot of people who are still asleep. They don't know what you know, or they may know it logically, but again, they've allowed themselves to be kind of victims of their own emotional thinking. They're not able to stand in truth. And when you run into these people, it's important as well to remain humble and not to cast, stones, metaphorical stones at these people, or put them down and look down on them, because again, you're not tapping into those virtues of humility. It's important to just look at a situation, and if somebody isn't operating in truth, or isn't operating in this virtuous way, that's the way that you want to surround yourself with, or the types of people that you want to surround yourself with. Misery loves company. And so if you're around miserable people that are complaining all the time, constantly bringing drama into your life, trauma dumping on you all the time, and really just in a sea of emotional chaos and turmoil, then it's best to kind of just ignore those people and move on. Because another quote from Marcus Aurelius is, the best revenge is to never be like the one who hurt you. And I love that, because, if you really go out and start seeking revenge, then you really know better than that person that did you wrong. That's how we can kind of like level up, again, is by focusing on ourselves, and again, bringing it back to how we can improve and focusing on our own journey rather than others. The best we can do is learn from it and not stoop down to their level. I mean, why would you want to be on the level of, like I said, that pauper in that story of the Buddha, where he's just yelling at him and doing all this stuff? It's like, you're better than that, and you don't have to stoop to their level. You can lead by example. You can set a better example for people. Another aspect of Stoicism is the ability to be alone. And there's a quote from this Japanese philosopher named Mamoto Musashi, who said, "Those who can't be alone can't be honest and can't be loyal." That also makes a lot of sense as well. If you can't be alone, if you can't find peace by yourself, it's probably because you can't stand being by yourself. You can't stand being alone with your own thoughts. You are afraid to be with your inner demons. You have a lot of inner demons. And if you constantly need to be around other people to provide you some sort of emotional stimulus or emotional validation or whatever the case, you really don't have a good sense of self, and you don't have a positive sense of yourself. Me personally, I love being alone because I don't have to deal with other people's drama. I don't have to deal with people trauma dumping onto me and complaining and bringing all their issues to me, telling me about stuff that I don't care about, having low-level conversations about people, engaging in gossip. I don't want any of that. In fact, all that does is bring me down. It brings my emotional state down, and it's really just bringing me into a lower level of consciousness that I don't want to entertain. And I get to focus on what it is that I want in my life. And again, bring my focus back onto me, my own character, what it is that I want to cultivate in my life, and make steps forward to that. Do the things that may be the hard things, and really just embody the type of virtuous qualities that I want to have. I believe that we're all connected. I believe in a higher source energy, or the creator, or God, or whatever you want to call it. And I believe that, we are created in the likeness of that image. And it's not that we can become God, but we can be as close to God as possible. we can be the highest versions of ourselves. And that also comes with decentering pleasures, whether it's food or partying or, simple dopamine hits that you get from instant gratification type things. Those are never fulfilling in the long run. I want to be true to myself and to what I know to be true for myself. We also find that we want to surround ourselves with people that make us feel our best and that make us want to give our best, because people's behavior really, really influences our state of mind. And they've done science on this. There's a contagion effect that happens when you're around negative people, when you're around people that complain, when you are around people that are in that lower vibrational state. They drain our energy, they can ruin our day, while other people leave us with joy. They fill us up with vigor, motivation to live our best life. And it's important to ally ourselves and to be around good people who bring good vibes into our lives, and say goodbye to the people that have the ability to just bring us down in every way and sense of the word. It's important as well that we fulfill our duty, or fulfill our commitments, and not be at the whim of, again, seeking some sort of external praise, validation, and that goes for psychology as well. But the sun does not rise every day because it's seeking praise. We must fulfill our obligations. If we're waiting for praise to do our work, we're failing both the environment to which we belong and ourselves. And if we know what our task is and are aware that other people depend on it, it is our moral duty to carry it out without anyone waiting to remind us of it. Again, you may not feel like doing something in the moment. You may not feel like fulfilling with your commitment and fulfilling with your promise. But that is how you cultivate inner self-esteem. That is how you cultivate trust with yourself. That is how you cultivate integrity with yourself. And that, again, reaches out and builds all of that up with other people as well. And people will trust you more. People will treat you with respect because you fulfill your duties, you fulfill your commitments, and they know that they can rely on you. Again, do not hate those that hate you. You simply ignore them because you are much bigger and completely superior to the ones who criticize and despise you. Therefore, you don't waste your precious time hating. They do not deserve to be present with your thoughts. You're encouraged not to fear people who harm you, as that noise represents a regrettable attempt to damage you, so ignore it and become immune to it. When you allow the comments and attitudes of others to bother you, you are handing over control of your life, and any person capable of making you angry becomes your master. However, that person can only make you angry when you allow yourself to be disturbed by them. And this is easier said than done, but again, this goes back to our emotional control, that we are in control over our emotions. We do not need to be led around the nose by other people because we're giving them the buttons to press our emotions, because we're giving them the remote control to our emotional state of being. The solution is to put a barrier up that prevents us from being affected by the attitudes of others, because each one is the owner of what they say and also of what they decide to listen to. Friendship also is above material wealth, because true, genuine friends that will be there to support you if one day our material fortunes dissipate, that is a true value, that is true wealth. And to dedicate yourself to cultivating true friendships, you'll be making a very profitable long-term investment for yourself. Again, we can only control ourselves. We cannot control our reputation, but we have the capacity to control our character. And our character is who we are being. We cannot control the amount of goods or materials that we possessions that we possess either. All we can do is make control over our decisions, over our thought processes, and make our best attempts to make the best decisions at all times and live in accordance with our values. And that's why it's very important as well to know what those values are, so that you can live in accordance with them at all times. In Stoicism, there's really no place for fantasizing. It's all about cultivating a resilience to you and the fortitude to do what you know is right, no matter what the situation is. Not be allowed to be led by our emotions, but to exist and make decisions in a grounded, rational thinking process. And with that, you're going to be able to make much better decisions, be much more clear-headed, be able to execute. And again, you're going to build goodwill from the people around you. People are going to treat you with respect. People are going to value your presence because they know that you are somebody that sticks to their words, that sticks to their commitments, follows through on their promises, and that you are somebody that lives in accordance with your own values and principles rather than living in a constant state where you're being pulled around, where you're being pushed around, where you are being led by these transitory emotional states, and you're not really somebody that they trust will follow through, because they get the sense that you are somebody that is fickle, you're, wishy-washy, and potentially not going to be following through with things because you are a victim to those emotional states. So when you exist in this way, you're going to realize that people, whether it's your parents, whether it is people in your environment, your coworkers, whoever it might be, they're not able to push you off your center. They're not going to be able to push you off course and from your living in accordance with your values and your beliefs and what you know to be true. Because that is one thing that a lot of us, especially in nowadays, are reacting. We're in this state of reacting all the time. We've been conditioned with it through the media, through the internet, and through basically being in a state where we're constantly looking for some outside stimulus. Cultivating these virtuous qualities, cultivating this ability to live with these stoic qualities is really going to make a positive impact for you and really allow you to, again, step back into the driver's seat of your life and not be a victim of circumstance and a victim of these emotional states, which will take control of you if you allow them to. With that being said, guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that this has given you some key takeaways as far as Stoicism and how it can improve your life. And if you like what you learned today, please like, subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.